The morning was unusually calm along the coastline. The waves rolled gently against the shore, creating a peaceful rhythm that seemed to hide the tension that was slowly building far out at sea. Most people were busy with their daily routines, completely unaware that something enormous was approaching, something that could change everything they knew about the world. In the heart of this quiet calm, the INS Valiant rested in the harbor, gleaming under the early sunlight. It was a massive human warship, unlike any other. Its steel body reflected the rays of the sun, and its hull, meticulously maintained, carried the weight of both advanced technology and human pride. The crew moved about the deck with disciplined precision, performing drills and checking equipment, each action reflecting their readiness and dedication. But for most civilians, the ship was nothing more than a magnificent machine docked by the shore, a symbol of protection that existed in the background of their daily lives. Captain Arav Khan, the commanding officer of INS Valiant, walked along the deck, his boots clanging softly against the metal. He had been with the Navy for over 20 years and was known for his courage and unwavering focus. His presence brought a sense of calm and order to everyone on board. Though he was respected for his tactical mind and quick decision-making, he was also feared by some for his strict discipline. Yet beneath his stern exterior, there was a deep concern that lingered in his eyes, a worry about an unseen threat that the world around him was too slow to acknowledge. Arav had a way of noticing details others missed. He watched the horizon constantly, the same horizon that appeared empty and peaceful to ordinary people. Something about the way the waves moved, the patterns of the ships passing in the distance, and the subtle signals from reconnaissance drones didn't sit right with him. He could feel tension building even when everyone else remained oblivious. Meanwhile, the city near the harbor hummed with its usual activity. Street vendors arranged their stalls, children ran along the narrow lanes laughing, and fishermen prepared their boats for another day at sea. The contrast between this normal life and the hidden danger out at sea was stark. Most of the civilians had no idea that a warship like INS Valiant wasn't just a showpiece or a deterrent. It was humanity's frontline defense against something far greater than they could imagine. Rumors had started to circulate about foreign fleets maneuvering in distant waters, but official reports dismissed them as exaggerations or misunderstandings. People went about their lives, trusting that their leaders knew what they were doing, that the Navy and the Army would handle any situation that arose. But Captain Arav knew better. His instincts, honed over decades of service, told him that the calm was only temporary, and that danger was approaching faster than anyone could anticipate. The crew of INS Valiant moved with a quiet efficiency. Engineers inspected engines, ensuring that every system was running perfectly. Technicians calibrated the advanced weapon systems, making sure that the targeting computers were ready for action. Sailors practiced emergency maneuvers, drilling, over and over until their movements became second nature. There was no panic, only a shared understanding that they could be called into action at any moment. Arav watched them from the bridge, feeling both pride and unease. Pride, because he knew they were prepared, and unease, because even the best preparation could not guarantee safety against the unknown. At the same time, Arav thought about the human cost of war. Though INS Valiant was a machine of immense power, it was also a vessel that depended on human courage, skill, and sacrifice. Each member of the crew had families, dreams, and fears, yet they had chosen to serve on a ship that might one day be sent into the heart of destruction. He thought about Lieutenant Meera Sharma, the ship's communications officer who had a calm and confident demeanor, but sometimes stayed awake at night worrying about the lives under her command. He remembered Petty Officer Raghav Singh, who had joined the Navy as a young boy with dreams of adventure, but now faced responsibilities that were far heavier than he could have imagined. Each person had a story. Each one carried hopes and fears that were invisible to the world beyond the ship's hull. And all of them were about to face a reality that would test them in ways no training could fully prepare them for. Despite the apparent calm, small signs hinted at the tension ahead. Intelligence reports suggested unusual activity in neighboring waters, including movements of unknown vessels and sudden communications blackouts. Naval analysts debated these reports, some suggesting natural causes, others warning of deliberate maneuvers. But bureaucracy delayed action, and the general public remained unaware. Captain Arav reviewed these reports late into the night, analyzing patterns, calculating possibilities, and preparing for scenarios that could involve total chaos. He knew that if they waited for confirmation from higher authorities, it might already be too late. His experience told him that when a threat is real, hesitation can cost lives. As he walked the deck at sunset, Arav thought about the human spirit, the resilience, the courage, the determination that could rise when survival demanded it. INS Valiant was more than steel and machinery. It was a symbol of human ingenuity and tenacity. Each weapon system, radar, and engine represented decades of knowledge and effort. Yet, beyond technology, it was the people who made the difference. He could feel the energy of the crew, their silent readiness, their commitment to each other and to the mission. The calm of the evening could not mask the tension in the air. Something was coming, and when it arrived, it would leave no room for hesitation. Night fell, bringing a cool breeze and a sky full of stars. The city lights reflected on the water, creating a sparkling trail that led from the shore into the endless horizon. For the civilians, it was a serene and beautiful scene. For Arav, it was a reminder of the vastness of the ocean, the unknown threats that lurked beyond sight, and the responsibility that rested on his shoulders. He convened a late-night briefing with his senior officers, going over every possible strategy and contingency plan. Discussions were precise and serious, each word weighted with the knowledge that the next orders could decide lives and futures. They reviewed radar feeds, satellite images, and historical data on maritime conflicts. Nothing could be left to chance. Meanwhile, the families of the crew went about their evening routines, unaware of the storm that was silently approaching. Some watched television, catching glimpses of political debates and entertainment shows. Others cooked dinner, unaware that the calm they enjoyed was fleeting. Arav thought of their smiles, their ordinary concerns, and how quickly everything could change. It was a thought that both strengthened his resolve and filled him with quiet sorrow. When the time came, he would need to lead, to protect, and to make decisions that no one else could make. The night passed with a strange mixture of quiet and anticipation. The ship seemed to breathe with life, every system humming softly, every sailor moving with purpose. Arav stood on the bridge, looking at the horizon, imagining the possibilities of what might come. He could sense that the next morning might bring change, possibly destruction, possibly triumph. But one thing was certain: the world as they knew it would never be the same again. INS Valiant was ready, and so were the humans aboard her. By dawn, the first light of day illuminated the ship, and the crew prepared for their drills once more. The calm waves glistened under the sun, but beneath them, currents moved with unknown strength. Captain Arav gave orders, each one precise and confident. The crew responded, their actions seamless and disciplined. The city beyond the harbor continued to function normally, blissfully unaware of the monumental events that might soon unfold. And somewhere in the distance, beyond the horizon, the first signs of the approaching threat began to make themselves known. It was a calm day on the surface, yet beneath that calm, the world was holding its breath. INS Valiant stood like a sentinel, a guardian forged from human skill, courage, and determination. The crew moved with purpose, aware that they were not just preparing for routine exercises but for the possibility of total destruction. Captain Arav walked the deck one last time before the morning briefing, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Every decision, every action, every choice mattered now. The calm of the morning was a deceptive veil. Soon the storm would come, and humans would have to rise to meet it. In that quiet tension, the stage was set for a story of courage, sacrifice, and resilience. INS Valiant, the human warship, waited patiently, its crew ready to face whatever destruction lay ahead. And in the minds of those aboard, there was a silent understanding. The calm would not last forever, and soon, everything they knew would be tested in ways beyond imagination. The morning after the calm passed, tension began to creep into every corner of the coastline. Captain Arav Khan could feel it in the air, a subtle shift that signaled the calm had been temporary. Reports from reconnaissance drones and distant patrols suggested unusual activity far beyond the horizon. Strange blips appeared on radar screens, clusters of unidentified ships moving in patterns that made little sense. At first, it was easy to dismiss them as anomalies, but the patterns became too consistent to ignore. Arav leaned over the radar display in the command room, tracing the lines of movement with his finger. Each mark, each signal, told a story of calculated approach of forces that were preparing to strike. The unease he had felt for weeks was now turning into certainty. Something was coming, and it was coming fast. In the small fishing villages along the coast, locals noticed strange disturbances in the water. Nets dragged through unusually deep areas brought up debris and equipment that seemed out of place. Boats reported seeing shadows of massive vessels far off the shoreline, vessels that did not match any known fleet or design. Fishermen whispered among themselves, exchanging stories of strange lights and shapes moving beneath the waves. Authorities dismissed their accounts at first, labeling them as exaggerations or illusions caused by the morning fog. Yet some of the fishermen could not shake the fear, a quiet, instinctive dread that the ocean was hiding something far more dangerous than anyone imagined. These reports eventually reached Arav, who read each one with careful attention. While others saw superstition or coincidence, he saw patterns, signs that confirmed his worst fears. Captain Arav convened his senior officers for a detailed meeting. In the war room, holographic maps displayed the coastline, nearby islands, and all known ship positions. The data from drones, satellites, and reconnaissance missions were cross-referenced, revealing the approach of unknown enemy vessels moving with precision and stealth. Every officer present felt the weight of the moment, realizing that the calm of the past days had been a deceptive prelude to conflict. Arav spoke clearly and decisively, outlining the possible scenarios. He emphasized the need for readiness, for vigilance, and for preparation beyond standard protocols. "We cannot wait for orders that may never come," he said. "If we do, it will be too late." His words were met with nods of agreement, though behind their calm faces, each officer felt a mixture of fear and determination. Despite Arav's foresight, bureaucracy and official channels slowed any immediate response. Reports sent to higher authorities were met with delays, requests for verification, and instructions to maintain routine patrols rather than prepare for open conflict. Arav grew frustrated with the endless paperwork and formalities. He knew the humans under his command could not rely solely on external validation when their lives, and the lives of millions, were at stake. With a firm resolve, he made the decision to begin covert preparations. The INS Valiant became a hive of activity, with crew members running drills, testing weapon systems, and rehearsing emergency maneuvers. Engineers worked overtime to ensure engines were at peak performance. Weapons specialists fine-tuned targeting systems, and communications officers ran simulations for blackout scenarios. Every minute mattered, and Arav demanded that none be wasted. The crew sensed the urgency and responded with full commitment. Lieutenant Meera Sharma, the communications officer, spent long hours scanning for any signals from the approaching fleet. Her fingers flew over the controls, decoding intermittent bursts of encrypted messages that hinted at strategy and coordination far beyond what they had anticipated. Petty Officer Raghav Singh, leading a team of weapons specialists, meticulously checked every missile system, every torpedo launcher, and every defense mechanism aboard the ship. They were preparing not just for battle but for survival against an enemy that could bring total destruction. The atmosphere aboard the INS Valiant was tense yet focused, a mixture of anticipation, fear, and unwavering determination. Meanwhile, on the civilian front, life continued almost normally, but subtle changes were beginning to appear. Some local news channels picked up rumors about unusual naval activity, but most dismissed it as speculative. Still, a few curious citizens began to watch the coastline with cautious eyes, noting the unusual drills on the warship and the increased presence of patrol boats. Among them was Arjun, a young journalist with a keen interest in military affairs, who sensed that something extraordinary was unfolding. He tried to gather more information, visiting the harbor under the guise of a regular story about naval exercises. What he saw left him both amazed and uneasy. The discipline, the urgency, and the sheer readiness of the crew suggested that the preparations were not routine. He realized that if a story broke out too late, The world would see the consequences of a catastrophe already in motion. Arav also understood the psychological state of his crew. He knew fear could paralyze, but disciplined fear could drive courage and creativity. He spent time speaking individually with team leaders, reinforcing trust and camaraderie. "We don't just fight machines," he said quietly. "We fight with our minds, our hearts, and our will to survive. That is what makes humans unpredictable, what makes us powerful." His words were more than motivation. They were a call to embrace responsibility, to understand that their actions now would determine not just the fate of the ship, but potentially the survival of countless lives along the coast. Strange encounters began to escalate as the day progressed. A fishing boat, returning from early morning hours at sea, reported a fleet of shadowy vessels appearing on the horizon, moving in precise formations that suggested coordination and intent. The fishermen were frightened but stayed silent, fearing ridicule. Arav, however, received the reports with grim acknowledgement. He studied the patterns carefully, realizing that these vessels were not exploratory. They were scouts, probing the coastline, measuring defenses, and identifying weak points. The enemy was methodical, strategic, and terrifyingly organized. For Arav, this confirmed what he had suspected. The calm days before were not a pause. They were preparation by the enemy, a gathering of forces that would soon strike with devastating power. As the afternoon sun climbed high, Arav called for a full crew briefing. Standing in front of his officers, he explained the reports, shared his analysis, and outlined potential scenarios. They reviewed every possible strategy, from defensive maneuvers to aggressive strikes, considering resources, limitations, and potential outcomes. Every officer contributed ideas, and for the first time they began to visualize the confrontation not as an abstract threat, but as a real, imminent battle. The atmosphere in the room was tense yet purposeful. They understood that hesitation could cost lives, and clarity of thought could save them. Even as the crew trained and the warship readied itself, Arav thought of the civilians unaware of what loomed beyond the horizon. Their ordinary lives, filled with work, laughter, and family, continued as if nothing had changed. He considered the fragile line between normalcy and chaos, knowing that it could vanish in moments when the enemy finally struck. It was a weight that few outside the military could understand, a responsibility that demanded vigilance, decisiveness, and sometimes personal sacrifice. Arav felt it keenly, not just for himself but for everyone who would rely on his decisions. The night fell with a mixture of unease and determination. The horizon darkened, but the activity aboard the INS Valiant intensified. Night exercises simulated attacks, defensive maneuvers, and emergency evacuations. Engineers worked under dim lights to maintain systems at optimal efficiency. Technicians ran tests repeatedly, ensuring that even the slightest malfunction could be corrected before battle. Arav watched them all, silently proud of their dedication and aware of the challenges that lay ahead. Every human on that ship was aware that they were preparing for a confrontation unlike any they had experienced before. As the hours passed, small but undeniable signs of the approaching threat became clearer. Remote sensors picked up vibrations under the water, fast-moving submarines maneuvering silently. Signals intercepted by Mira hinted at highly coordinated communication among enemy units. The crew began to understand that this was not a minor intrusion. It was a deliberate advance by a powerful force. Arav's earlier suspicions were confirmed. The calm of the past days had been deceptive, masking a meticulous, calculated threat. Every action, every preparation was now crucial for survival. Even as the crew trained relentlessly, Arav found moments to reflect on humanity itself. He thought about the ingenuity, determination, and courage that humans displayed when faced with unimaginable threats. INS Valiant was a representation of that spirit, advanced technology guided by human skill, disciplined yet adaptable, ready to face total destruction if necessary. He realized that while machines could be built and weapons designed, it was human courage and quick thinking that truly determined the outcome of conflicts. And that understanding became his guiding principle as he led his crew through hours of preparation, drills, and strategy sessions. By the end of the night, every member of the INS Valiant had been through intensive preparation. Sleep was minimal, but focus was maximal. They knew the approaching threat was real, and the decisions they made now could save lives or result in catastrophe. Captain Arav, standing alone on the deck under the starlit sky, gazed at the horizon. Somewhere beyond, the enemy advanced silently, unaware that the humans aboard INS Valiant were awake, alert, and ready. A storm was coming, and soon there would be no calm, no warning, only action, courage, and survival. The stage was set. Human determination and skill faced the looming shadow of destruction. INS Valiant, its crew, and its captain were ready to meet it head-on, fully aware that the coming hours could redefine everything they had known about courage, sacrifice, and resilience. The dawn broke with a sharp, uneasy glow over the horizon. The calm that had persisted for weeks was gone, replaced by an electric tension that pulsed across the coastline. Captain Arav Khan stood on the bridge of INS Valiant, his eyes scanning the vast expanse of the ocean, searching for the first signs of the enemy. The crew, trained and disciplined, moved with silent urgency, each person performing their duty with precision. It was the moment they had been preparing for, the moment when theory became reality, when drills and simulations turned into life-or-death decisions. Arav's heart pounded, but he maintained his composure. This was what they had trained for. This was the storm they had anticipated. Far beyond the visible horizon, the enemy fleet advanced with deliberate coordination. Their approach had been undetected for days. Hidden beneath the vastness of the sea, their movements precise and strategic. The first signs of attack came in the form of distant flashes of light and low, thunderous booms, missiles striking the coastline and communication towers. Panic erupted in coastal towns as people realized the rumors were true. Sirens wailed and families scrambled for safety. The peaceful morning of Part 1 had transformed into chaos, as destruction rained down without warning. The sheer speed and efficiency of the attack left no room for organized resistance on land. INS Valiant was now humanity's first and perhaps only line of defense. Captain Arav called out orders with a calm intensity, his voice cutting through the tension like a blade. The crew responded instantly. Radar operators tracked the enemy's movements. Weapons officers prepared missile systems, and navigators plotted evasive maneuvers. Every second mattered, and every action had to be precise. Arav knew that hesitation or error could mean total destruction, not just for the ship, but for countless lives along the coastline. The stakes were enormous, but the crew's training and determination gave him confidence. They were ready to face the impossible. As the warship moved forward to confront the enemy, the first clashes began. Enemy drones and small attack vessels swarmed the waters, firing missiles and creating chaos. INS Valiant's defense systems activated immediately, intercepting missiles, deploying countermeasures, and retaliating with precision. The deck shook as explosions rocked the surrounding waters, sending sprays of salt and fragments into the air. The crew braced themselves against the shocks, their faces focused and unflinching. Each strike was a test of skill and nerves, and each successful defense a small victory in a battle that was quickly escalating beyond anything they had imagined. Captain Arav's mind worked like a finely tuned machine. He calculated trajectories, anticipated enemy maneuvers, and issued commands that balanced offense and defense. His years of experience gave him an almost instinctive understanding of the battlefield. "Prepare the main cannon," he shouted. "Lock onto the largest vessel on radar. Fire when ready." The crew moved with practiced speed, following every order without hesitation. The first salvo was launched, hitting an enemy ship and causing a massive explosion. The fire lit up the horizon, a vivid reminder of the destruction that was possible in these waters. For the crew, it was both terrifying and exhilarating, a confirmation that their preparation could make a difference, even against overwhelming odds. Amid the chaos, Arav also had to manage the human element. Fear and adrenaline surged through the crew, and maintaining discipline was crucial. He moved among them, offering guidance, reassurance, and focus. Eyes on the target, heart steady, he reminded them. "We do not panic, we adapt. We survive." These words were more than motivation, they were a lifeline. In moments of extreme danger, clarity of thought and precision of action determined who lived and who perished. Every crew member knew the importance of their role. Engineers repaired damaged systems on the fly. Communication officers decoded enemy signals in real time, and weapons officers recalibrated targeting after every strike. Their combined efforts created a formidable human-machine synergy that was difficult for the enemy to anticipate. The enemy fleet, however, was relentless. Larger vessels appeared on the horizon, equipped with devastating weaponry. Missiles streaked through the sky, striking nearby waters and creating massive explosions. The ocean seemed to boil with fire and chaos. Arav understood that this was no ordinary attack. It was a calculated assault aimed at total destruction. Retreat was not an option. He made a decisive choice. INS Valiant would engage head-on, using its superior maneuverability and advanced systems to counter the enemy's numbers. The crew executed complex battle formations, weaving between waves, launching torpedoes, and deploying defensive shields. Each move required perfect timing, coordination, and trust in each other's abilities. As the battle intensified, the crew witnessed the human cost of war. Smoke rose from the horizon as enemy vessels exploded. The water churned with debris, creating hazards that could cripple the ship if not navigated carefully. Yet the crew pressed on, their determination unwavering. Arav felt the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. Each decision could save lives or lead to tragedy. He scanned the battlefield constantly, adjusting tactics, reallocating resources, and anticipating the enemy's next move. It was a test of strategy, courage, and endurance, a challenge that demanded the best of every human aboard INS Valiant. Amid the physical chaos, psychological tension ran high. Crew members faced fear, exhaustion, and uncertainty, but they drew strength from camaraderie and trust in their captain. Arav had prepared them not just for the technical aspects of battle, but for the emotional and mental strain as well. He reminded them of their purpose, protecting lives, defending humanity, and standing firm against overwhelming odds. Every strike they launched, every defense they executed, was a testament to human resilience. Even as explosions rocked the waters, the crew remained disciplined, channeling fear into action, chaos into order. The enemy escalated further, unleashing their deadliest weapons. A massive missile, unlike anything the crew had ever seen, approached rapidly. Arav's mind raced. Traditional interception would not be enough. He made a bold decision: deploy the ship's ultimate countermeasure, a high-risk maneuver that required precise timing and coordination. The crew followed his orders flawlessly. The missile was intercepted, its trajectory altered, and it exploded harmlessly in the water far from the ship. Relief swept through the crew, but there was no time to celebrate. The battle continued, fiercer than before, each side adapting, striking, and countering with relentless intensity. As hours passed, the INS Valiant became a symbol of human courage. Despite being outnumbered, outgunned, and surrounded, the ship and its crew held their ground. They struck with precision, defended with skill, and adapted to every new threat. The battle was exhausting, testing both physical endurance and mental resilience. Crew members worked through fatigue, repairing systems, recalibrating weapons, and maintaining vigilance. Each successful defense and counterattack reinforced their resolve. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, humanity's determination shone through. Amid the chaos, Arav also considered the civilians along the coastline. He knew they were vulnerable, relying on the ship to buy them time and protect them from the advancing enemy. The thought added weight to every decision he made. He understood that leadership was not just about strategy and tactics, but about empathy, responsibility, and the courage to face impossible odds. His orders reflected that understanding. Each command was calculated to maximize both defense and the safety of those who could not protect themselves. Night began to fall, but the battle showed no signs of stopping. Fires lit up the horizon as enemy ships burned, and the ocean shimmered with reflections of explosions and debris. The crew of INS Valiant remained focused, disciplined, and unwavering. Arav's leadership was the anchor that kept everyone steady, guiding them through chaos with clarity and determination. They had moved from preparation to action, from anticipation to confrontation, and every move mattered. The ship had become more than a machine. It was a living testament to human resilience, ingenuity, and courage. By midnight, the battle had reached a critical point. The enemy, sensing that INS Valiant was more formidable than expected, regrouped for a concentrated assault. Massive vessels advanced, their weapons charged and ready to unleash total destruction. Arav made a decisive call. He would engage the enemy directly, striking their flagship with everything the ship had. The crew understood the risk. Failure could mean total annihilation, but they trusted their captain completely. Precision, coordination, and courage became their weapons. The ship maneuvered through waves and debris, closing the distance to the enemy flagship. The final approach was tense and silent, the calm before the storm. Arav gave the order and the main cannons fired with devastating force. Explosions erupted, lighting up the night sky and shaking the surrounding waters. The enemy flagship took critical damage, tipping the balance of the battle. INS Valiant had survived the initial assault, but the battle was far from over. Every crew member knew that this was only the beginning, and the coming hours would test them in ways beyond imagination. Yet in that moment, they also felt the power of human determination, the ability to stand firm, fight back and resist overwhelming odds. As the first wave of the attack subsided, Arav allowed himself a brief moment to assess the situation. INS Valiant had held its ground, defended the coastline, and struck significant blows against the enemy. Yet the threat was far from neutralized. The crew remained vigilant, aware that the enemy would regroup and continue their assault. Despite exhaustion and fear, they prepared for the next phase of battle, understanding that survival depended on unwavering focus, courage, and unity. The ocean, now scarred by fire and debris, reflected both the devastation of war and the resilience of humanity. The invasion had begun, and the human warship had proven its might. INS Valiant had transitioned from preparation to confrontation, from anticipation to engagement. The crew had faced total chaos and emerged with skill, courage, and determination. Captain Arav knew that the coming hours would demand even more, that survival would require every ounce of strategy, resilience, and human ingenuity they could muster. Yet in that moment, amidst explosions, fire, and chaos, there was also a spark of hope, a reminder that when humanity stands together, it can face even the most terrifying storm and fight back with unstoppable force. The battle raged on with a ferocity that seemed impossible to endure. INS Valiant, battered yet unbroken, moved through the chaotic waters with relentless determination. Explosions erupted around the ship, waves surged and crashed against its hull, and fire and smoke painted the horizon with a deadly glow. Captain Arav Khan remained on the bridge, his eyes scanning every movement, every signal, every blip on the radar. The enemy fleet was enormous, more numerous than anything the crew had trained for, and yet every sailor on board understood the gravity of the situation. There was no room for fear, no room for hesitation. Survival demanded courage, strategy, and the full strength of human will. The crew moved like a single precise organism. Engineers worked tirelessly in the engine rooms, ensuring that the ship's propulsion systems were operating at maximum efficiency, despite damage from nearby blasts. Weapons officers loaded, aimed, and fired with mechanical precision, coordinating every shot with the movements of the enemy. Communication officers decoded signals, tracked enemy patterns, and relayed crucial information to Captain Arav in real time. Every individual, despite exhaustion and fear, understood that the survival of humanity depended on their actions. The INS Valiant was no longer just a ship. It was a symbol of human resilience, courage, and ingenuity. Enemy vessels advanced relentlessly, their attacks more coordinated and destructive than ever. Missiles rained down in waves, some intercepted by the ship's defenses, others striking the water nearby with explosive force. The ocean seemed to boil with chaos, fire, and destruction. Arav knew that the survival of his ship and crew required more than just defense. It required bold, aggressive action. "Prepare the forward cannons," he shouted. "Target the largest cluster of enemy vessels. Fire when ready." The crew responded instantly, executing the complex order with practiced precision. When the cannons fired, massive explosions tore through the enemy fleet, creating temporary chaos and giving INS Valiant a chance to maneuver into a safer position. As the battle escalated, Arav faced the most critical challenge of his career. The enemy had deployed their deadliest weapon, a massive, heavily armed battleship equipped with devastating technology capable of wiping out entire fleets in moments. The size, firepower, and speed of this vessel were overwhelming. The radar showed it advancing steadily, ready to strike at INS Valiant with a barrage that could destroy the warship in seconds. Arav's mind raced, calculating trajectories, analyzing enemy strategy, and weighing options. Conventional attacks would not suffice. The crew looked to him for guidance, trusting his experience and judgment. Every decision now carried the weight of life and death, not just for those aboard, but for everyone along the coastline. He made a bold, dangerous decision. The ship would engage directly. INS Valiant, though outnumbered and outgunned, would confront the enemy's deadliest weapon head-on. This required precise timing, flawless coordination, and complete trust in the crew. Engineers adjusted the engines to maximum output. Weapons officers calibrated every system for extreme accuracy, and navigators plotted a course that allowed the ship to approach the enemy while minimizing exposure to incoming fire. Arav moved among his crew, offering encouragement, clarity, and focus. "We fight not just with weapons," he said, "but with our minds, our hearts, and our will. That is what makes us human. That is what makes us unstoppable." The approach was tense and methodical. Explosions erupted all around, shaking the deck, throwing equipment and debris into the air. Sailors braced themselves, their faces set with determination. The radar blipped constantly, showing the rapid advance of enemy vessels and the deadly trajectory of incoming missiles. Arav's focus never wavered. Every command, every calculation, every decision was critical. INS Valiant moved like a living entity, weaving through chaos, striking with precision and defending with skill. The crew's training and human instinct became the most formidable weapon in the battle, allowing them to survive attacks that would have destroyed lesser ships. As the human warship closed in on the enemy's deadliest vessel, the crew witnessed the full scale of destruction. Ships around them exploded in massive fireballs, waves of water and debris crashing against INS Valiant. Smoke filled the sky, reducing visibility and adding to the chaos. Yet despite the destruction, the crew held steady. Arav's calm leadership and unwavering focus gave them the courage to act decisively. Each strike they launched, each evasive maneuver they executed, was a testament to human resilience in the face of overwhelming odds. The ship became a fortress of determination, a beacon of human ingenuity amid the chaos of war. The enemy fired a barrage of missiles designed to obliterate INS Valiant. For a moment, it seemed impossible to survive. The first few missiles were intercepted by the ship's defense systems, but more continued to approach with lethal accuracy. Arav made another bold decision. He ordered a simultaneous offensive and defensive maneuver, coordinating all weapon systems to target multiple enemy vessels, while using the ship's agility to evade incoming attacks. The crew executed the plan with flawless precision. Missiles intercepted, cannons fired, and enemy ships exploded in waves of fire. The ocean around them was a battlefield of smoke, flames, and chaos. Yet INS Valiant endured, proving that human courage, skill, and determination could match even the most overwhelming technological power. Amid the battle, the human cost became painfully evident. Fires and damage aboard the ship tested the crew's endurance. Injuries occurred, but the sailors pressed on, performing first aid while continuing to operate weapons and navigation systems. Captain Arav moved among them when possible, offering guidance, reassurance, and inspiration. "Every life matters," he reminded them. "Fight for each other, fight for those who cannot fight. That is why we are here. That is why we survive." These words resonated deeply, reinforcing the crew's determination to protect one another and fulfill their mission, no matter the cost. As the battle reached its peak, Arav identified a critical moment. The enemy vessel was preparing to unleash a weapon of catastrophic power, a strike that could wipe out INS Valiant and the surrounding fleet. The timing was crucial. Arav ordered a high-risk maneuver, positioning the ship to deliver a counterstrike while minimizing exposure. Engineers worked frantically to optimize power output. Weapons officers calibrated targeting systems to perfection, and the crew held their positions with unwavering focus. Every second counted. Every action was critical. Failure would mean annihilation, but success could turn the tide of the battle. The strike was executed with flawless precision. Missiles launched, cannons fired, and the enemy vessel erupted in a massive explosion, sending flames and debris across the ocean. The blast rocked the surrounding fleet, creating temporary chaos and giving INS Valiant a chance to regroup. The crew cheered, though exhaustion was written on every face. The battle was far from over, but this victory proved the effectiveness of human skill, courage, and determination. Arav allowed himself a brief moment of relief, knowing that the most dangerous threat had been neutralized, but he remained focused, aware that survival demanded constant vigilance. As the battle continued into the night,
INS Valiant remained a symbol of human resilience.
The crew moved with precision, repairing damage, recalibrating weapons, and maintaining constant vigilance. The ocean was littered with the remains of enemy vessels, fires burning on the water and smoke rising into the sky. The destruction was immense, yet the human warship endured, its crew driven by purpose, courage, and the will to survive. Every maneuver, every strike, every act of bravery contributed to the ongoing defense of humanity. Amid the chaos, Arav reflected on the extraordinary resilience of his crew. Despite fatigue, fear, and danger, they continued to act with discipline, courage, and precision. Engineers worked tirelessly to restore systems damaged by explosions, while weapons officers recalibrated targeting after every strike. Communication officers maintained contact with distant patrols, providing crucial intelligence that allowed Arav to make informed decisions. Each individual's dedication reinforced the collective strength of the ship, transforming INS Valiant from a machine into a living symbol of human determination. As dawn approached, the first light revealed the full scale of the devastation. The ocean was scarred by explosions, debris, and fire. The enemy fleet had suffered tremendous losses, and INS Valiant, though battered and damaged, remained afloat. The crew was exhausted but alive, their determination stronger than ever. Captain Arav knew that the battle had proven a crucial point. When humanity faced total destruction, it had the ability to fight back with unmatched courage, skill, and resolve. Every act of bravery, every calculated maneuver, and every moment of endurance had demonstrated the power of human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. The night passed, and the crew began to recover from the immediate chaos. Injuries were treated, systems repaired, and weapons reloaded. Though exhausted, morale was high. The crew had survived what seemed like impossible odds, and in doing so, they had defended countless lives along the coastline. Captain Arav reflected on the events, realizing that the battle had tested every aspect of their preparation, skill, and courage. INS Valiant had not only survived, but had proven that human determination could stand against even the most destructive forces imaginable. Yet Arav knew the battle was far from over. The enemy, though weakened, could regroup and continue their assault. He understood that vigilance, preparation, and courage would be required for the coming challenges. INS Valiant had survived the first wave of total destruction, and its crew had proven their resilience, skill, and determination. The battle had tested them physically, mentally, and emotionally, and they had emerged stronger, more focused, and more united. In the aftermath of Part 4, the human warship stood as a testament to courage and resilience. INS Valiant, though battered, remained a formidable force, ready to face whatever came next. Captain Arav and his crew had demonstrated the power of human determination, the importance of discipline, and the value of courage in the face of overwhelming danger. The ocean, scarred by fire and explosions, reflected both the destruction of war and the indomitable spirit of those who fought to protect humanity. The stage was set for the final confrontation, where the outcomes of courage, skill, and determination would define the future. The smoke and flames that had filled the horizon for days began to thin as dawn approached. The ocean, once a chaotic battlefield, now lay eerily still, broken only by the occasional flicker of fire floating atop shattered debris. INS Valiant, though battered and scarred from the relentless assault, floated as a lone sentinel in the middle of the vast sea. Captain Arav Khan stood on the bridge, exhausted yet alert, scanning the horizon for any remaining threats. For the first time in days, the chaos seemed to pause. The enemy fleet, once overwhelming and terrifying, had been reduced to scattered wreckage. The first wave of victory, however, came with a heavy cost. Many brave souls had fallen, and the reality of the lives lost weighed heavily on the crew. Every sailor knew that survival had demanded immense courage, sacrifice, and unwavering determination. The crew moved methodically across the ship, tending to damaged systems and injured comrades. The infirmary was filled with those who had been wounded in the chaos of battle. Burns, fractures, and exhaustion were common, yet every injured sailor received immediate attention. Arav walked through the corridors, offering words of encouragement and checking on the morale of his crew. "We did what we had to do," he said quietly to one group of exhausted officers. "Every life we saved, every vessel we defended was because of your courage and skill. Be proud, for humanity owes you its survival today." The crew listened, some with tears in their eyes, others with silent nods. They understood that their captain spoke not as a superior, but as one who shared their struggle, who bore the weight of leadership alongside them. The devastation around them was immense. Ships that had once threatened the coastline lay in pieces across the water. Fire still burned on some of the floating debris, sending dark plumes into the sky. The ocean itself bore scars from the battle, craters formed from missile impacts and broken hulls that punctured the surface. Yet amidst the destruction, there was a sense of triumph, a quiet acknowledgement that INS Valiant had survived against impossible odds. The warship itself, though damaged, had proven the power of human ingenuity and resilience. Its hull bore marks of explosions, dents and scorched metal, but it remained afloat, a testament to both engineering and human courage. Captain Arav knew that this moment was not just about survival, but about reflection. The battle had tested every limit, physical, mental, and emotional. He thought about the crew, about their bravery, their sacrifices, and their unyielding spirit. Lieutenant Meera Sharma, who had decoded enemy signals in real time, had prevented countless strikes from finding their target. Petty Officer Raghav Singh, leading the weapons team, had ensured that every offensive move was precise and deadly. Every individual had contributed, often risking their own life, to ensure the survival of the ship and the civilians they had sworn to protect. Arav felt a deep sense of gratitude, a bond forged in the fire of battle that could never be broken. Amid the aftermath, Arav also reflected on the civilians along the coastline. The destruction they had avoided was directly linked to the actions of the crew aboard INS Valiant. Families, towns, and cities that might have been annihilated continued to exist, thanks to the human determination displayed on this single ship. He thought of the ordinary lives saved, children who would wake to a new day, parents who would embrace their families, communities that would rebuild. The weight of responsibility remained, but so did the relief that their sacrifices had made a difference. This understanding reinforced Arav's belief that courage and skill, combined with purpose, could alter the course of history, even in the face of total destruction. As the morning light strengthened, the surviving crew gathered on the deck. The silence was almost deafening, a stark contrast to the roar of battle that had raged for days. Arav addressed them, his voice steady yet emotional. "We have faced the unthinkable," he said, "and we have endured. This ship, this crew has shown the world what humans are capable of when united, when courageous and when determined to protect one another. We honor those who fell and we continue for those who remain. Today we have not just survived, we have demonstrated the strength of humanity itself." The crew stood together, exhausted but proud, knowing that they had done more than fight a battle. They had defended hope. While INS Valiant floated in relative calm, damage control teams worked tirelessly. Hull breaches were sealed, engines were repaired, and weapon systems were brought back online. Engineers, though tired, operated with efficiency, understanding that readiness was still critical. The enemy, though mostly destroyed, might have lingering threats or reinforcements. Arav knew that vigilance was as essential in the aftermath as it had been during the battle. The crew, understanding the importance of continued preparedness, responded with unwavering dedication. Every action, every repair, every check was another step toward ensuring that the ship remained a symbol of human resilience. The ocean, now dotted with wreckage and smoldering fires, reflected both the destruction and the triumph of the battle. Captain Arav observed the scene quietly, contemplating the enormity of what had transpired. The enemy's power had been immense, designed to overwhelm and annihilate, yet human courage had turned the tide. The crew had faced impossible odds and emerged not unscathed, but undefeated. The magnitude of their achievement was profound. This single warship, with its determined crew, had defended an entire coastline and preserved countless lives. It was a moment of victory, tempered by the losses and sacrifices endured. Even as the immediate threat diminished, Arav focused on the human element. The crew's resilience had been tested beyond limits. Many had faced fear, injury, and exhaustion, yet they continued to perform with precision and courage. He moved among them, checking on their well-being, listening to their concerns and offering reassurance. "Rest now, for you have earned it," he said. "But remember, the strength we have shown here comes from unity, discipline, and determination. These qualities define us as humans. Never forget the power we hold when we stand together." The crew absorbed his words, their pride in both survival and accomplishment deepening their resolve for future challenges. In the distance, towns along the coastline began to emerge from chaos. Smoke rose from some areas, evidence of destruction, but many structures remained intact, proof of the shield INS Valiant had provided. People began cautiously emerging, assessing damage and helping one another. The human spirit, much like the crew on the ship, displayed resilience and determination. Families reunited, neighbors assisted one another, and communities began to rebuild, inspired by the knowledge that they had been defended by extraordinary courage and sacrifice. The connection between the warship and the people it protected became clear. Without the actions of INS Valiant, the destruction would have been unimaginable. Captain Arav took a moment to reflect on the personal cost of the battle. Many of his crew had lost friends, mentors, or loved ones in the chaos. Every life lost was a reminder of the stakes of leadership and the weight of responsibility. Yet he also recognized the extraordinary bravery displayed, the courage to act under impossible conditions, the selflessness to protect others at great personal risk, and the determination to continue even when hope seemed distant. These qualities, he realized, were what made humans formidable, what allowed them to survive and triumph even in the face of overwhelming odds. The day progressed, and the crew began recovery efforts. Injuries were treated, equipment repaired, and communication lines restored. Though exhaustion was widespread, morale remained strong. Sailors shared stories of courage, recounting moments when quick thinking, bravery, or teamwork had prevented disaster. These stories became part of the collective memory, a testament to the resilience and determination that had defined the crew's experience. Captain Arav listened, offering praise and acknowledging the sacrifices made. He understood that these moments of reflection were as crucial as the battle itself, for they reinforced the strength and unity that would carry them through future challenges. As evening approached, the surviving crew gathered once more on deck. The horizon was calm, the ocean reflecting the fading light of day. Captain Arav addressed them, his voice filled with both solemnity and pride. "We have faced destruction, chaos, and fear," he said, "and yet we stand. This ship, this crew, and this human spirit are proof that even in the darkest moments, courage and determination prevail. Remember those who are no longer with us, honor their sacrifice, and continue to serve with the same bravery and commitment. Humanity has endured today because of you, and I am proud to stand among you." The crew listened silently, their hearts heavy with grief yet filled with pride and resolve. The night fell, bringing a sense of quiet reflection. INS Valiant remained vigilant, but the immediate threat had passed. The ocean, though still dotted with wreckage, held a strange serenity, as if acknowledging the resilience and courage displayed by the humans aboard the warship. Captain Arav stood on the bridge looking out at the horizon. He thought about the crew, the civilians they had protected, and the magnitude of what had been accomplished. The battle had tested limits, reshaped perceptions, and proven that human courage, determination, and ingenuity were capable of standing against even the most destructive forces imaginable. As the crew settled into a much-needed rest, Captain Arav considered the future. The enemy, though defeated, might return or pose other challenges. Preparedness, vigilance, and resilience would remain essential. Yet in that moment there was also pride, a deep understanding that the human spirit had triumphed. INS Valiant, though damaged, remained a beacon of hope and a symbol of what humanity could achieve when united, disciplined, and courageous. The sacrifices made, the courage displayed, and the determination shown would never be forgotten. In the aftermath of the battle, INS Valiant and its crew had proven more than their strength as a warship. They had demonstrated the indomitable power of humanity itself. The enemy had sought total destruction, but humans, through bravery, skill, and unwavering determination, had survived, defended countless lives, and emerged stronger. Captain Arav and his crew would be remembered not just as warriors, but as guardians of hope, exemplars of courage, and symbols of resilience in the face of overwhelming odds.